So I invite you to bring your attention to where your physical body is in contact with whatever you're sitting on, and notice what it feels like to put your attention on the body and how it is supported in this moment. And to take a moment to notice if you need to do something to become more alert, yet comfortable and at ease. So take a moment to see if there's any tension and put your attention to that tension. Perhaps it's shoulders, or sometimes it's my jaw. I have to consciously give it permission to relax. And the body is responsive to that attention, especially if it's kind attention. So we don't want to be mad at the body if perhaps it's feeling a little achy or a little tired. We want to give it a kind attention and give it the signal it's okay to be at ease, to let go of any vigilance or worry. And after you've checked in kindly with your body, I'd like you to put your attention to your breath. First, just find the breath. The breath is always happening. We rarely pay attention to it. So find the sensation of air entering and leaving the body. Find where it's easiest to actually feel the sensation. And this is different for everyone. Take a moment to notice, an opportunity to notice something that keeps you alive. The air entering and leaving the body. Could be in the nostrils, back of the throat, slight rise to the chest or abdomen, whatever it is. Take a moment to sense where that is and rest your attention there for a few more breaths. The only thing to attend to is being alive in this moment. Receiving the gift of oxygen and surrendering in the exhale. Surrendering to this moment, taking in air in the next breath, perhaps with a bit of gratitude, not only for the air, but for the force that breathes you. The force that breathes you moment to moment, with no effort on your own part, usually. So I invite you to put kind attention to the breath and to whatever else is arising. Practicing this simple, basic meditation of breath concentration is not easy because we have a powerful mind and it goes everywhere. And that's no problem as long as when you notice that it's all over the place, you practice kindly, gently, with intent to bring it back to the breath, to be present, to your experience, and to be present to the space you share with everyone else. Breathing a deeper breath, a fuller breath, and slow your exhale. And do this 3 times consciously. A fuller, conscious breath, a slow exhale. Staying present, signaling the body it's okay. It's all right. You're here, attending, caring. And we'll explore this more in the rest of this hour. You can open your eyes if you want, but if you'd like to leave them closed, that's fine also. I have a poem from Elias Hamadon. Caught here, believing we are something that could be alone, believing we are these frail, beautiful bodies. We look for love from each other. All the while, we are made of love. And today's talk or subject that we're going to explore together is compassion. And our natural capacity for compassion is a whole system. You know, it's not just one part of us that has to do with compassion. But I'd like to start with this quote from Elizabeth Gilbert, because a lot of times people come to meditation because their mind, you know, is so active. And it can be almost painful to have such an active mind and not to be able to calm it down. And a lot of times, you know, the expectation with meditation is that the mind will come to rest. It certainly does sometimes, and for some people, but that's not the practice of meditation is much more than that. And sometimes we need to look elsewhere for peace. And this is what Elizabeth Gilbert says. The resting place of the mind is the heart. The only thing the mind hears all day is clanging bells and noise and argument. And all it wants is quietude. The only place the mind will ever find peace is inside the silence of the heart. That's where you need to go. So part of mindfulness is developing compassion, the capacity to have compassion. I think that is a little misleading because we have a built-in tendency for compassion. It's one of the reasons the human species is still alive and thriving at 9 billion of us, is because we do have compassion or empathy. But it can be short-circuited or hidden or buried underneath mostly what the mind creates. So I think what Elizabeth is saying is, if you want peace of mind, you're going to have to come to the heart at some point. You can't just train the mind to be calm and peaceful. There's other aspects of your existence, your being, that needs to come into play. And within mindfulness, there are practices for compassion. So I will end our time with that practice, with the final meditation, but just a little exploration with our minds and words. And I think one of the things that blocks our natural capacity to have compassion in the moment, in a situation with another person or animals or an event, is fear. Our fear of pain, our fear of getting involved. Our mind kicks in and we have an idea and an aversion to something, and it blocks our ability to be compassionate in the moment. And one of what came up when I was thinking about this was, nowadays cancer is, talked of all the time, and it's out in the open. And when people have the disease, they find support groups. They talk about it. There's so many ways to connect and to get help. But it wasn't always that way. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you just never talked about it. And if you got a diagnosis, you didn't tell anybody. And if you did come in contact with someone with cancer back then, it was almost a scary thing, because it was almost feeling, oh my God, I don't want it, because it was so deadly back then. And there was a lot of fear around it. And so it's not that way now, but so there wasn't a lot of compassion around cancer because it wasn't a shared thing. It was a fearful thing, and it created fear in people. And I think we're still in that kind of fear of catching it, or fear, oh, I don't want to be with that because it's uncomfortable to even think about being in that situation. So I used to work in the city, and I used to walk about 13 blocks, and I would pass quite a few homeless people. And when I started practicing mindfulness or spiritual practice, I would try to stay present with them, and I would try to have change in my pocket or dollar bills, and I would make an effort to be present. But I also noticed, a fear in myself, like, it was uncomfortable to think about the homeless person and their situation and their life. And there were some days where I would actually change my route because I didn't want to have to feel that. So part of our inability to be compassionate in the moment, and for me, and I think, if we think about it, you can only be compassionate in the moment and take action. It's like we may like to think of ourselves as compassionate, but if we don't ever take any action on it, are we really compassionate? And I think in the moment, sometimes to be compassionate is blocked because of some sort of fear, some sort of like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be with this situation because it's painful for me. And so part of mindfulness is learning to be with whatever arises and to have a compassionate response to it, to intentionally be kind to whatever is arising, to not look away. So that is how compassion and mindfulness and meditation come together, because the mind can jump away from a situation. It can go anywhere, and it does. You know, we've all done it. We walking down the street, all of a sudden we're like, where was I just now? The mind took off and was thinking about this, that, and everything else. So part of mindfulness, part of our being able to act compassionately in the moment, is to learn how to be with something that's uncomfortable within ourselves, or what's right in front of us. Um, and another block, perhaps, to being compassionate, we might have a habit of um, jumping right to some sort of reason why this situation exists, is we're very judgmental of ourselves and others. And that's a habit. That's a learned habit. There's a lot of psychological reasons for that. I think Freud called it the superego, where we constantly have this way of looking at how we're not measuring up, how we should have known better, they should have known better, you know, this kind of judging ourselves or others rather harshly. And it's very common, and it is painful. I was quite that way for a very long time. I can still revert back to that. And I just want to offer one of the things that really helped me, because I thought I had kind of kicked the habit, and then something went kind of wrong. I kind of blew something up, and I was just so harsh on myself. When I finally realized what I was doing, I was like, whoa, what happened? And there's a book called Inner Bonding, Becoming a Loving Adult to Your Inner Child. It's by Margaret Paul. And basically, we all heard the term inner child, right? We all have this inner child. Well, basically, it's honoring that inner child and becoming a parent to yourself in the way you would love to be loved. And it really helped. I actually bought copies of the book and sent them out to people. But mindfulness will let us know if we do have that tendency to criticize when we're feeling bad, rather than being with the sadness or the grief or the whatever, and showing some compassion for it. It doesn't mean we wallow in it, but we can be kind to ourselves when things aren't going well. It's okay. We're not going to fall apart. We're not going to quit our job and end up on the street if we go easy on ourselves when things are tough. Right now, things could be tough. And we need to notice when we're not being compassionate with ourselves, because we have to start with ourselves. We have to cultivate the ability to care and be kind and be with ourselves when we're not our best, or when we're hurting, or when we screwed up. And then that helps open that natural capacity to be compassionate in the moment with someone else. And we do it because we feel the love. We don't have to manufacture it. We have an experience of it with ourselves. And I'll just say one more thing before we share. There's a magazine called Tricycle, and it's a Buddhist magazine, and this edition had an article called Self-Care in an Uncertain World by Tony Bernhard. And we've been talking a little bit in these gatherings about how 2020 with COVID, basically, let us know we don't have control, and there is no certainty. There is no normal. And we have to adapt to that. And we're adapting to that in the way that we can. But there's ways to do it from the Buddhist perspective and through compassion that allows us to be with that uncertainty in a much more compassionate way with ourselves and others. And I'll read this quote from the article. "The way you treat yourself is one of the few things you control in life. There's no reason to be anything but kind to yourself in both your speech and your actions. Compassionate action includes taking care of your needs and looking for ways to enjoy yourself despite the current limitations. To engage in compassionate self-talk, think of words that speak directly to how hard it is to long for certainty in an uncertain world. Then recite them to yourself in a soothing voice. Words such as, 'It's scary not to know what the future holds for me.' When you give voice to your feelings in this way, you're letting yourself know that you care about your suffering. This alone will ease your emotional pain." And part of the book I spoke about, inner bonding, one of the practices was when I noticed I was in pain, emotional pain, I had to learn, I'm putting my hand on my heart now. That's one of my teachers often says, you can sometimes just put your hand on your heart, And I had to learn to be, to be kind to myself and say, I feel like shit right now or whatever. It's okay. You're allowed to be sad. You don't have to jolly up or whatever I needed to hear, or I'm here, just putting the attention there. I felt seen where perhaps, we don't always feel seen when we're growing up. So I can speak from experience. It really helps. We respond to that. Whatever this is, whatever we are, responds to kindness and compassion. And it helps. Now, the other thing besides uncertainty that's going on right now with COVID, when are we ever going to be able to meet just in person, right, as a group and enjoy those kind of things? What is school going to be like? What is anything going to be like? The other big thing, having spoke to different people, is loneliness. Loneliness that can come with our sheltering in place, our inability to be physically together. And Tony Bernhardt has this to say: "I find it helpful to distinguish between being alone and feeling lonely. Being alone in itself is a neutral state, neither positive or negative. The philosopher and theologian Paul Tillich said this about being alone: language has created the word loneliness to express the pain of being alone. It has created the word solitude to express the glory of being alone. So take comfort," Tony says, "in knowing you are not alone in your loneliness. You are not alone in your loneliness. Millions of people understand how you feel. Bringing to mind others who are lonely and evoking compassion for them and for yourself over your shared circumstances can make you feel deeply connected to them. This can ease your own loneliness. Find those kind words, one that resonate with you personally, and bring them to mind with a gentle and soothing voice. And so mindfulness uh, has us be aware of what is arising internally, being with, and then bringing mind to that space in the heart to turn our natural capacity for kindness and compassion to ourselves, and then to wish this for others in our practice. And then it becomes part of how we are in the world. So I'm going to unmute so that we can, if anybody would like to say anything. And I'm also going to mute everyone so we don't aren't interrupted. But thank you again, everyone, for sharing and being present. So again, I invite you to notice how you're sitting. Take a brief scan to make sure if there's any discomfort, if there's something you can do to make yourself more comfortable, do that. If it's something that you know, that's just a pain that you have, and perhaps put a little attention and kindness for that you are dealing with that, and that it's okay. It's okay to comfort yourself if you are in pain, if you do have some sort of chronic situation. It's okay to comfort yourself, to be there. And bring your focus to your breath again, the sensation of breath, allowing your attention to rest and where the sensation of breath entering and then leaving the body is most prominent, so that it is easy to find if the mind should wander, as it will. And when you notice that your mind has wandered, just notice and kindly, gently bring it back to the breath. It's a training, a practice of being present to what is already here. Life, existence, presence. You are real. You are here. So again, breathing in, breathing out, using the breath to become present to this practice with each other. And I will offer certain phrases and words that I'd like you to take into your awareness along with the breath. And these statements are presented within our meditative state. And we do this in stillness, in silence, so that our inner knowing may present itself. This is a gentle exploration of compassion. And as we do this, we may find a place in us that needs some healing attention. We may find a tenderness that yearns to be expressed. We may find resistance, and we will have the opportunity to be with whatever arises and allow our heart to be just as it is. There's no need to be one way or another. There's no judgment here. It's a practice of being with our heart, our breath, and each other. Noticing the breath, consciously aware of the breath. Notice the exhale and surrender to the moment, to the next breath. And allow these words to be heard and to be felt by the body and the subtle energy of the heart and mind. Be kindly curious, knowing nothing that arises is wrong or right. Whatever is noticed only serves our inner knowing. May you be happy. May you be happy. May you be safe from harm. May you be healthy of mind and body. May you be filled with joy. May you love and be loved. May you love and be loved. Noticing the breath, resting with the breath, aware, present, breathing in, breathing out, aware of the breath, breath. Now I'd like you to repeat silently the phrase you hear me speak. There's no worries. Allow the words you speak to yourself to be felt, if possible, within both your body and the subtle energy of the mind and heart. Repeating the phrase you hear me speak silently to yourself. May I be happy. May I be safe from harm. May I be healthy of mind and body. May I love and be loved. May I love and be loved. May I be free from suffering. May I be free from suffering. Allow your heart to be exactly as it is. There's nothing you need to do but notice and allow the heart to be exactly as it is. Space for the heart to be what it longs for. Noticing the breath, resting there, aware, and repeating these words to yourself as you feel comfortable, silently. May I hold myself with kindness and compassion. May I hold this experience with kindness and compassion. May I love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment. Turning the attention to the breath, resting there, and listening to this teaching from the Buddha. You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Breathing, present, allowing the moment to unfold. Breathing in life, letting go with the exhale from Hafiz. A day of silence can be a pilgrimage in itself. A day of silence can help you listen to the soul play its marvelous lute and drum. Is not most talking a crazed defense of a crumbling fort? I thought we came here to surrender in silence, to yield to light and happiness, to dance within in celebration of love's victory. noticing where your attention is and bringing it back and allowing it to rest at the sound of the vibration of the bell. Thank you, everyone. I'll unmute